interviewer will be Oscar Espiritu Santo, and then the interviewees are 3 people working in this SMARTVOTE project. Raúl Magallón, Pinto, Martinho, and Miguel Paisana will be talking to Mr. Espiritu Santo, who is also a member of SMARTVOTE, how to fight misinformation and fake news. Thank you for being here again to share your siesta time with us. I know it is after lunch. It is a complicated time of the day. And, well, it is also a complicated time because Miguel and Ana will have to run right after the session because they have to go back to Lisbon very soon. So we'll be talking about misinformation, fake news, SMARTVOTE, and what we can do with this project, what we members can do it. So give us the headlines. We're journalists or work in journalism. So give us the motto. Well, SMARTVOTE is a project that talks about 3 main projects: AI, misinformation, and the youth. So those are the 3 pillars. So we want to use all these objects in a strategic way to precisely try and understand the difficulties young people face and mobilization before the elections and politics. So AI is used as a weapon or a tool and not a threat, because technology is something that young people like to use. So what is that technology that is being developed? Well, I want to say something else for the project to be understood. The idea is that misinformation in election processes is more global than ever in local contexts. We analyzed the Brazilian elections, and more than 30% of the narratives that were verified were related to election fraud. In Spain, in the 2023 elections, almost 20% of the verified fake narratives related to election fraud. So we decided to look into the importance of literacy in these processes. And then we also talk about the importance of collaborative analysis. And we've been collaborating with an observatory, and we work on the same things, but in different contexts. In terms of trust in the media, it's a completely different context. In Brazil, citizens trust the media, but Spain is one of the countries where people mistrust them the most. Spain is a more decentralized country. Portugal is more centralized. And so we wanted to collaborate with a Portuguese observatory. And then the 3rd pillar is about another member, the Polytechnical University in Madrid, that has a team that specializes in AI. And one of the objectives of their project was to disseminate that research, and that's why we designed a tool. It is a Telegram tool to verify narratives, not just during the elections, but during our other common problems. For instance, now we are testing the problem both in Spain and Portugal with fires, natural fires or forest fires last summer. So we wanted to find common narratives, if any, and the strategies. So we detect the misinformation, the fake news with that tool developed by the Polytechnical University. And so what do we do next? What's the target? What are we going to do next? Do we do training courses? Yeah, and workshops for different audiences, for young people and also young journalists, because they have the two requirements. They are young and they're journalists. Because journalism is very important for the fact-checking and the verification, so we're working specifically for them. If we reach them, they will be reaching more and more people. So fake news pervades the whole society. So if we work with journalists and journalism student, why aren't data enough? Who creates more fake news? Individuals or organizations? Especially during the elections. It's a very complicated problem, because everything happens in the social media and the network. So every user has different experience. When we started out, we organized a general framework to try and understand the context, what's common in Portugal and Spain. But we realized, well, we limited the analysis to young people between 18 and 25, and we saw a big gap between men and women. Men are more polarized, they are more open to the radical narratives, misogynist, or they connect to more traditional authoritarian narratives. On the contrary, women are more informed. And so we're happy because we deeply know the demography we're working with, but having such a vast array of profiles is difficult. In Spain, people are mobilizing using social media, but in Portugal, more than 50% of the population still trust the TV news. So yes, we have a very broad type of population, but we have to target our actions. So we work with young people and young journalists, because young people master technology and young journalists master the language tools. So with that tool made by the Polytechnical University, we detect fake news, we create a target group, we target the audience, and then so we organize training courses. What are the training courses like? We're still working on that, but we have some ideas. Yes, because we started this project only a while ago. For instance, in Portugal, we've been working with St. George, my place. It's like a training center for journalists in Portugal. It's the most important one for journalists in Portugal. So we're trying to understand what journalists and young journalists value the most. And we've been focusing on two technical training, which is not perfect, which is not ideal. You have to work on other things, such as ethics, deontology, and the tools you can use are okay. But the most important thing in journalism is to be there, to be where things happen. This is not something AI will give you. So We want to develop a tool they really can use in their actual work so that they can use it to communicate it better. So you are a professional on fake news in Spain and abroad. How can we reach the youngest population? And who creates those fake news and how? Because you've written about it, because we know there are many fake news. And how are they used to misinform the young population, the young people? Well, if we were to reply to that, we would have to start out with other issues. A teenager spends around 1,054 hours per year in high school, receiving formal training, formal education. And they also spend 1,400 hours per year on the internet. Secondly, in recent decades, literacy has been ignored when it came to training teenagers. I mean, political literacy. For instance, in the past, we could have our first interaction with politics by talking to family members or at school. But now, all the information on politics they get come from social media, anti-feminist movements, anti-immigration movements, and they don't even realize it. Behind that type of viral content, there is politics behind it, and sometimes it is the first time for them they get in touch with that political content. Thirdly, why elections? Why are elections so important in terms of fake news? Misinformation or fake news work ideally in terms of uncertainty, in contexts of uncertainty. In Spain and many other places, with the disappearance of the political bi-party system, people started mistrusting political parties. There is a survey made by THIS in Spain that showed that many people decided who to vote for on the very day before the election, the very last day before the election. And what are the incentives some political stakeholders have when it comes to disseminating fake news? There has been a report, right, on all these. Why this partnership between Spain and Portugal? Are we similar? Are we different? How do fake news work in Portugal or in Spain? Well, who wants to go first? Who's behind those fake news? Well, the first part of the question. These two countries are similar when it comes to the origin of this democracy in the 70s with simultaneous transitions. The constitutions were passed more or less at the same time, and then it all started to diverge. In Portugal, we have a centralized system and the political systems are compressed, but whereas in Spain, regional identities are notable. So, well, whereas in Portugal, we have like a central identity, a strong national identity. There are two important aspects with regard to our work. The phenomenon of the fake news will be always bigger than the fact-checking process. That's always like that. So if people decide who to vote for on the very last minute if they're using misinformation, if they're using fake news to sustain their vote. That is a problem. And now fake news are more sophisticated and contemporary in the way they work. One of the most iconic cases in Portugal was about a YouTube campaign. Chega is like the political party called Vox in Spain, and they created a campaign against the two traditional parties, the People's Party and the Socialist Party. And we wanted to look at that campaign, who funded it. It was a company based in Delaware that had already worked with Javier Milei in Argentina and some other elections in Singapore. So they have a globalized network. So of course they cannot. Their information is not based on local facts. They just organize those fake news campaign, and they slightly adapt it to the specific countries. You like voting, right? You vote all the time. Can you give us any more specific examples you can give on misinformation, fake news during the election processes? So many. We could give so many examples. We've talked about polarization. For example, about migration. That didn't exist in Portugal, or not as early as in Spain. It's already there now. Portugal is polarized. There are many video clips made with deep fakes. For instance, showing people on a very iconic place in Lisbon, and you can see women wearing hijab, and the speaker says, well, this is what you're going to see if you vote for X or Y party. And that video clip is repeatedly showing up in all the platforms whenever there is an election, so very often. For instance, there was another campaign. There were people, members of a political party, and then a motorcycle driver ran past them, and then someone said, "This is a terrorist attack against Ventura," but no, it was just a motorcycle running out, running past them, and so it was a manipulation, and they are not interested in figuring out, whether it is true or not. It's a post-truth. And yes, so that internationalization, globalization of the fake news. So you were talking about a real video footage that is misinterpreted, or deep fakes, totally fake footage. So you're trying to use artificial intelligence to try and figure out where the information is going, but artificial intelligence is also working on the dark side to try and misinform people. We saw it this morning. It's very that footage, those videos are indistinguishable sometimes from each other. There is the general director of Clave, who is also here in the audience. Clave is a group of editors composed of some mass media. And he agrees with me that one of the problems is that we need more technology journalists, tech-savvy journalists, and people who are knowledgeable in what technologies can do. And the mass media need to better explain what lies behind the deepfake and the risks of using these technologies. There was a study in Portugal about how mass media talked about AI. And most of the times, journalists were not specialized, so they just used the copies sent by the actual companies, the actual technological companies. They couldn't even write their own copy because they simply couldn't. So we need people who can specialize on AI and technology. Of course, if I run a business, if I own a business specializing in AI, in my copy I will say that AI is the best. But journalists really have to be critical about it. They have to have some critical thinking. So journalists have been biased in favor of AI. So for instance, what are the AI tools that mass media can use in Portugal? Well, I think it's very diverse. As Anna was saying, journalists have to learn how to talk about AI, they have to learn how to use it, and it is difficult for them to do both because, you know, there is some economic crisis in the media that also impacts the way they can talk about those things and how long they can spend on training. But people in the media, well, the business people in the media are keen on using AI because they can have better performance, but they're also concerned about the ethical issues it can pose. But most of the people work in silos. They work solo. I am working on by myself and I try to figure out what I want to do, but like you don't have any policies that everybody can use. So you have like, well, journalists like have to self-regulate because there is no regulation about it either. So you have a top-bottom approach, and people, well, the bosses say these are the rules, and nobody is trying to like create a useful regulation. In the case of Spain, I want to give the floor to Juan, who will be talking later about it in the Q&A session. And I want to say something else, maybe the last question. Do you think this project will be limited in time or will be short-lived? But after that, do you think it can be exported? It's like an Iberian project. It's like Iberian ham. Do you think we can export to somewhere else in Europe? Do you think it's replicable? Will it be useful to others? Well, this tool will be open sourced, so it will be available. And secondly, we are working with Telegram because the API is enabling us to work with the tool. We know that technology changes, society evolves, and we are aware that we should at some point be on TikTok. And then I also think this type of projects are more effective because of the comparative analysis between countries. That way we can understand weaknesses and strengths. Okay, perfect. So now we can have some questions. Juan, you can go first. You raised your hand already. He's up there.
Gracias por alusión.
Thank you. Well, so my question is, you can give your reply and then a question. I am optimistic as to how media are fighting the fake news and how they're implementing tools that as you said, can intensify the effects of fake news. I'm talking about AI here. This is a sociological issue. If the media cannot quickly adapt to technological changes, they are dead, because we would be still using a wooden press, right? This is a permanent cycle, a permanent problem, because media have always adapted to the changing circumstances. They are inevitable. They are very necessary for the society. In Spain, the media are working intensely with AI throughout the supply chain. They use it to produce content, to distribute the content, to classify the content. They also do a lot of data analysis, which is a great part of the AI. I want to keep it short. And they are firmly opposed to the attempts of technological supremacy some tools are imposing and at the same time overriding the citizens' rights. And I want to keep it short because I know the moderator's there. But this is such a hot topic in Empodera, because we're talking about digital sovereignty and digital or technological supremacy over alles is unacceptable. And my question is, I know, so media play an important role in regulating the social dialogue, but universities should play a role too, and maybe you can talk about it now. I was surprised to see that the School of Communication of the Complutense University in Madrid was the first college building that has been fenced. And the Carlos III college building is totally open, no fences at all. And maybe you can check about how they're changing the curriculum. Well, I want to say something that I think is important. We have changed our curriculum this year. And then in the first year, we've created a new subject matter, a new course. It's AI journalism. That's the name. And I want to tell you an anecdote that explains that course. I made a first question to the 80 or 90 students I had in my classes, those who had enrolled in that class. And the question was the task, the exercise was to ask ChatGPT where they could follow that class or what universities in Spain offered that course, that subject matter. And they had many varied replies. And some of the replies they got from ChatGPT was that course was taught in many universities. Some others got a reply that said that course was not taught in the Carlos III University, which is my university, and the one where that course was being taught. And so that was important for them to see how they shouldn't trust ChatGPT, and how they need to be right in the place where the things are happening, the news are happening, if they want to write or inform about it. So we need universities, we need these projects, Smart Votes, and we need more journalism. Thank you.